Hello, friends. Welcome back to our next episode of the Reach More podcast. In our last episode, we were speaking with Madeline, who is the point of contact for the Archdiocese of the military. And we were speaking with her about the way that they have used Reach More to equip people all across the world in the military and spouses, those who are civilians at bases supporting the military, to evangelize. And so in this episode, we just want to break down some of the things that she shared and show how they apply to everybody in their apostolate, and really ways that we can use those lessons to help make all ministry better. So, hey, Mari, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, Dan? It's good to
I'm
be
great. Yeah, it is. And we literally just talked about, we were just talking with Madeline minutes
Literally.
ago. So
Yeah, yeah.
we just stayed
I was
around.
I was so excited to honestly, I was very excited to do this episode. I know that it was a little different. But I got back from Japan and I was telling Dan, I was like, we have to do something on the AMS. Like people need to know what's going on. And it is something that, yeah, it's just so cool to see and to understand a little bit of the background and to understand kind of like how we got here. We've been working with them for 4 years. I don't know if you guys know this, but our vice one of our like top people, Andrew, was in the military and he used to live in Japan and served for many years. So that's how this whole connection kind of started. So it's kind of cool to this from this connection. We've been working with them for 4 years and kind of seeing, and it's been interesting to see. We mentioned this, but seeing the changes that have taken place and the adaptivity and the creativity and got into the Holy Spirit and conversations with the bishop to see how can we best serve the AMS and how can we best, you know, do all the resources and gather all the materials to do this. When we first started, we were literally like sending small group stuff for people that were going to be deployed for months at a time. They're like, here, take this with you and you can like do this with, you could do a 6-week small group with them and you can do these things. And they're still doing that. But I think that what we have going on here is more sustainable to what we're doing.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for just a second. Why was that challenging for people? So they get deployed, right? They could be in Iraq or Afghanistan. They could be in Korea, Japan. Why was that? Not that it wasn't working, but how did we improve upon that?
Yeah. So originally, and I think Madeline's talked about this, originally we started that we had a point person at all like different bases.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was trying to get a hold of this wonderful woman called Emily, she's on fire. She's hilarious. And it was, I mean, in theory, it was great, but she had a lot of things on her plate and she had a lot of things that she had to get done. And here I am, and I'm like, make sure you watch your courses on, do course 1 and 3 for, point person training. And she's like, I don't have time for any of this. Right. And then I'd be trying to get a hold of her, meeting with her probably once a month, if that. And then she'd be gone for multiple months. And so to do something, we'd be like, okay, here's some materials, and she would use some of the materials, which is really cool. So she would do some small groups while she was away and stuff like that, but she was never able to do a 12-week training group when they're going in and out every 3 months. It's just not realistic, and she's the point person and she's the one being moved around. So one, we had to get creative with, they're not going to realistically, this woman's not going to be able to do a training group. That's not going to happen. So what can we do? She can do 6 weeks, small group when she's away. Yes, she can do that. That's good. But then we moved, Madeline actually came up with it of, well, what if we had AMS had point people and I met with the point people and then they met with people everywhere around the whole world from all the different branches to connect virtually. And that is sustainable. And it's not just a thing of, we're not just giving them materials, we're equipping people on how to use these materials and how you don't even need a book, because if you're well trained in how to evangelize, you just need yourself. That's it. And that's going to go wherever you go, no matter how many times you're moved around.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that makes a lot of sense. It's almost like initially what you were giving Emily was what she needed as an individual for her personal
Yeah.
apostolate. But she was really kind of doing two things. She was wearing two hats. She had her own personal apostolate, and she was running
She
training
was
groups for
trying. She
people.
was
Yeah,
trying.
trying.
She never ran it.
And it was just a season
She
where
was
it's like,
trying.
hey, this isn't going to work, right? Like
Yeah,
you're in the military and you're being deployed every 3 months, or
yeah,
you're moving every 3 months. It's just not going to work.
yeah.
And it's, it's not unless, of course, it's virtual and it's somebody like Madeline who's in a stable spot, right? Who's, okay, I know what my schedule is going to be for the next
Mhm,
2 years or something like
mhm,
that.
mhm,
And
mhm,
that, I think that's probably universally applicable. I mean, it's most parishes probably have a little bit more stability, or people in
yeah,
parishes have a little bit more stability. But it's just a good reminder, like when you're discerning what you're called to, right? Or you're working with people. Like, let's say you have a parish that has a lot of young adults, and their schedule is
mhm,
erratic, or they've got a lot going on. So then you say, okay, what would really work best? Like, how do we get
mhm,
people in? And maybe you're not meeting in person, brick and mortar, as nice as that is, because people just can't make it.
mhm,
And then it's not automatically recorded like it would be if you're meeting via Zoom. If you
yeah,
still want to meet in person, go ahead. And the other thing that it makes me think of is, um, we don't need to limit ourselves geographically as
mhm,
much.
mhm,
We could just say, hey, are you interested in joining this regional training group, and do you know any other human beings who might be, regardless of where they live? Cool, invite them. Here's the time. We
mhm,
have this many spots. And
mhm,
yeah, it's a parish initiative, and so we want to open it to people of the parish first. But if it's not filling up, then why not offer it to anybody else who might be interested?
mhm. And that is a shift, right? Because typically a point person would say, make a list of people that are faithful, available, teachable. So this is a little different because it's almost like so each place has I forgot the like verbiage, but one of the acronyms. It's pretty much like the person if they have a chaplain and they have a person that helps run the Catholic portion of the installation. And so they could give names, but it's a thing of well, sometimes like Madeline doesn't there's no way for Madeline to know who the people are in all of the installations worldwide. So it is a thing of they have to reach out. And so does an interview first, which she just had like 3 of them today of why are you reaching out, what are you interested in, what are your desires, and that's going to be investing, right? We were talking about this earlier, how oftentimes people look at the military and they're like, oh, I want to help, I'm going to send 1,000 rosaries. And it's like, that's great that you're sending 1,000 rosaries. That's not like that's beautiful, and also that's a lot. When I went to visit the installation in Japan, they were like, I don't even know what to do with all these rosaries. Like, because
Yeah.
it's when they're moving around, like, yeah, they'll hold the rosary, but what do you do with the other thousands, right? Like, it's if we're equipping them,
Mhm.
that's a bigger thing, right? That's like a more yeah, it's just like a sustainable thing. So,
And you and I have probably both been to like missions or places in the country where people just have a tendency to send stuff like, oh, those people are poor. They need resources. So we're going to
yes.
send them rosaries and books. And I have seen so many bags stuffed with plastic rosaries that are then stuffed in a closet and left there for a long time.
And they're
And
like, I
so
need something else. I need water. Like, I
Exactly.
need
Yeah.
like
Like, or I need to know I need to know how to talk to people about Jesus so that I can get them to, care about praying the rosary and understand the importance of the Blessed Mother. And
Mhm,
that's I think, a shift in mindset, that it's like disciples make disciples.
mhm.
No inanimate object makes a disciple. As much as
And that's one of the things that I love because Madeline is having these one-on-ones with them. And she said it. She was like, one of the biggest things is how's prayer, right? How's prayer life going, and how can we make a routine? That's going to be the main thing that we're trying to do here, especially in the military. There's a lot going on, like mentally, spiritually, emotionally. There's just the things that they go through and the things that they've seen. I don't think I'll ever understand. It's not in I haven't been there, right? But she gets it, right? Like, she's been in it with her husband for all these years, and she has the opportunity to walk with and hear them and help them grow and just be there, which I think is such a beautiful opportunity that we're going deeper, and by her going deeper with them, they're able to go deeper with others, if that makes sense.
yeah, and that there's two things that I th- you were speaking of that makes me want to go deeper. And one is the idea of subsidiarity. And um, they're on the ground. Madeline understands military life. Her husband understands military life. Um, the church has an understanding that the people who are closest to the problem or closest to the situation, the reality, should be involved in the decision making process. And my guess is somebody, and maybe it was somebody who was on the ground initially, who said, "Oh, I know what we should do. We should have a point person on every base or at bases throughout the country." And the like that iteration of the idea was good, but then got perfected by
Mhm.
saying, instead, let's have one point person who coordinates so that that lifts the burden off of all these other people. And
And they
uh,
actually have 2 right now, and they're about to get a 3rd.
yeah, yeah, okay, gotcha. So
Yeah.
Madeline's one of three. Who's it? One
Well,
of
she's one of 2 right now,
yeah,
and they're trying to get more.
gotcha. Yeah. So again, like in a parish, the way that might work is if there were a group of people that you were trying to work with, um, one of the primary things would be to connect with that group and have them give you input on,
Mhm.
oh, this is how you can connect with us because this is where we are. This is when we're available. Um, And then the other was just going back to the importance of prayer. I loved that Madeline said this, like her own personal relationship with Jesus is fundamentally important for her work
Mhm.
as somebody. And it's far too easy to, I don't know whether this is like an American thing or a human being thing, a people thing. I think we compartmentalize our lives and think, well, I can still be efficient at taking the steps of evangelization, even if my prayer life is in shambles. Um, and no, it can't, because evangelization is people meeting Jesus in you. So he's got to be in us and close to us if we're going to make that happen.
Mhm. Absolutely. And that's actually one of the biggest things for me as, like, a consultant, right? Like, I'll check in, scale 1 to 10, how are you and Jesus doing, right? Like, how's your prayer life and what's going on? Because if they're not okay, how are they gonna be able to serve and walk with others, right? And that goes for me and you and for anyone in ministry, and that's, like, ministry 101. So, I'm excited. I think there's so much. I mean, I've said it in the episode. I'm still processing Japan and being on that installation, and there was so much that my eyes were open to. But I think one of the biggest things was the potential that this partnership has, um, to man, like, I don't know. It's such an exciting thing to think of this small way that if we equip people and help people encounter the Lord, they can do that in ways that me and you will never be able to because we're not there, right?
Yeah.
And like, we know we have Memorial Day and we have like all these different, we have, July 4th, we have all these different things to remember and honor, but this is one of the biggest ways that we can do that is by investing in them and helping them know the Lord through the people that are on the grounds. Like, that's exciting, you
Yeah.
know? It's exciting. It's cool to think about. So,
Indeed. Well, I'm happy you get to work with them. I'm happy that there's people like Madeline out there who are,
me
in
too.
the, she's a military wife. And so she knows what it's like. She knows the life. Uh, and
Too.
she's there supporting soldiers and airmen and airwomen and Marines and sailors all over the place.
All the
It's
things.
pretty cool.
So, seriously, anyone listening, just please reach out, look it up.
Yeah.
They're involved, and please pray. Pray for our people. There's a lot. I mean, it was really beautiful, and it was challenging, There was a funeral while I was there. There's a lot of layers that we don't talk about, the mental health
Yeah.
of our military people, or
Yeah.
there's a lot going on that we don't address. So, please pray. Please pray for the people in the military, and if you're listening, get them involved and help them to just know that they're seen and known and loved, and that
Yeah.
we're inviting them to something greater.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a feeling that this really resonates with people, especially, if you're in the military, you were in the military, you have family, children, aunts, uncles, grandparents who are in the military. You might say, you know what, I'd love to support that. And if that is just something that's on your heart, I'm bringing this up because I feel like the Lord keeps bringing it back to me during this conversation. You can email ec@evangelicalcatholic.org and say, hey, how could I support EC's partnership with
Mhm,
the military archdiocese, and we'll let you know.
mhm. Yes, we definitely will. Thanks for bringing that up, Dan.
You got it. Well, friends, thanks so much for joining us for this newest episode of the Reach More podcast. And we can't wait to be back with you with more stories of creative apostolates. And our call to action for you today is if you are involved in an apostolate, awesome. Thanks be to God. If you've said, okay, Lord, I know what you want me to do, then I think what you can do is just ask the Lord, all right, Lord, uh, what's the next step? What do you want me to do here? How can I share you more successfully with people and be open to that constant growth in holiness? And if you're still waiting for the Lord to show you what that is, keep praying, friends, and keep asking. And um, I ask you, I kind of beg you, please, because the church needs it, the world needs it. People deserve to hear about Jesus. Uh, be bold and ask Jesus to show you what the next step is, so that you can launch your own. And it could be you launch an alpha group. It could be a Bible study. It could just mean you befriend your neighbor. And we need more of that, whatever it looks like. And that's how the church is going to grow. And more people are going to come to know Jesus. And that's the path to a better world, a better planet. There's all sorts of good things we can do, but that's the ultimate thing we can do. So God bless you. Have a great day wherever you are. And we can't wait to be back with you for the next one. Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed this discussion between Madi and I about how the Evangelical Catholic is serving the Archdiocese for military services, and that you drew out of there some important lessons for your own apostolate. And what I'm thinking about and what I'm going to apply is making sure that when I'm working people, I'm actually conscious of what they need, and that I'm giving them skills and tools that fit with their state and their season in life. We were talking about the one member in the military who was getting deployed, and we were saying, here, you can do some small groups, and realistically that just didn't fit. All of her time was accounted for when she was on deployment, and so what we were giving her wasn't what she needed. So I'm going to really step back and think, okay, the people that I'm working with, what do they need, and how can they actually use it? Or am I giving them something that is going to sit on a shelf and collect dust? So thanks so much for joining us. And again, I would encourage you, ask the Lord, what's the next step in your apostolate? How is he asking you to grow? And it's not to say that we need to overthink things and always be tinkering with it, but rather that we always allow the Lord to move in even more, and we give him more space so that he can be the one who is changing hearts and building the kingdom, and we are there glorying him and wondering at his goodness. So thanks be to God. I'm so happy that you joined us for this one, and know that you are in my prayers. Peace.